My family took us hiking that day. Without warning, my parents and sister pushed me and my 6-year-old son off Acliff.Asilay. Broken, my son whispered, Mom, don't move yet. We chose to pretend we were dead. And when they left, my son told me what my sister said. And I froze in horror. Willowbrook, Ohio was a small town where the beauty of the seasons changed quietly. Mary Wilson found true fulfillment in her daily work as a nurse at the local general hospital. Her routine consisted of sending her 6-year-old son Aiden off to school in the morning, finishing her shift at the hospital, and then waiting for her husband Thomas, who worked as a construction site supervisor, to return home. Mom, look. I drew this at school today. Aiden held up a colorful crayon drawing with a pure smile on his face. It showed a dog, a cat, and a family surrounding them. Mary gently stroked her son's head as she pinned the drawing to the refrigerator. That's a lovely picture, Aiden. Dad will be so happy when he sees it. However, lately, Thomas hadn't been showing as much interest in his son's artwork as before. About 6 months ago, changes had begun to appear in him. With the excuse that work is busy, he was coming home later, and increasingly spending weekends away from home, saying he had to go to work. Mary's parents, Robert and Helen Carter, lived in a quiet residential neighborhood in the same town. Now retired, their greatest joy was spending time with their grandson Aiden, at least, that's how it appeared. Linda, Mary's sister, also participated in the monthly family dinners. Linda had found success as a sales representative for a major furniture manufacturer in Columbus. Enjoying her single and free lifestyle, she was a stark contrast to her sister's domestic life. Mary, what do you think of this children's chair? It's from our new line and it's selling really well. Linda had spread out the latest product catalog at last month's family dinner. At that moment, Mary thought she caught Linda giving Thomas a special look. But she convinced herself it was just her imagination. It's lovely. I'm sure it would be perfect for Aiden. That night, as usual, Aiden was cuddling with his grandparents, sitting on Robert's lap, as he read a picture book. However, Mary had noticed Linda giving Aiden cold glances several times. It was momentary, and she thought she might have been mistaken, but something about it left her with an uncomfortable feeling. On the drive home, Thomas was silent. When Mary asked, "What's wrong?" he replied, "I'm just tired." Aiden had fallen asleep in the back seat. "Dad, are you busy lately?" To Aiden's question, Thomas answered briefly through the mirror, "Yes, we have a big project." The following week, Robert called, "Mary, how about going hiking with the family this Saturday? Linda will be there too. Let's all enjoy nature together for the first time in a while." "That sounds nice. Aiden will be thrilled. Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home?" That's exactly what I did with Reddit stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious. I'll ask Thomas too. Mary suggested it to her husband. Surprisingly, Thomas, who would normally decline saying, "I have work," answered, "Let's go." Aiden, who loved nature, was excited about the family hiking trip. "Yay! We're going to the forest. Will we see animals too?" However, the day before departure, Thomas called. "I'm sorry, but urgent work came up. You all go without me." Mary was disappointed, but resolved to cherish the time with her son. "It's okay, Aiden. Let's enjoy ourselves even without Dad." Aiden looked a bit sad but quickly recovered his spirits. The morning of the hike dawned with a clear blue sky. Mary got up early to prepare Aiden's lunch and packed drinks, snacks, and a first aid kit into a small backpack. As a nurse, she always prepared for emergencies. "Aiden, are you ready?" Aiden came bounding down the stairs wearing a small jacket and hat, his eyes shining with excitement. "All ready, Mom. I brought my magnifying glass too. I'm going to observe insects." Mary smiled at her son's curiosity and pure joy. Though she regretted that Thomas wasn't with them, she was determined to cherish this mother-son time. The doorbell rang, and when Mary opened the door, her parents' car was parked outside. Her father Robert was in the driver's seat, her mother Helen in the passenger seat, and Linda in the back seat. Everyone was dressed for the outing, with Linda in particular wearing expensive hiking boots and stylish outdoor wear. "Good morning, Mary. What wonderful weather we have." Her father Robert's voice sounded unusually cheerful. As Mary and Aiden got into the back seat with Linda, Mary noticed something different about the atmosphere. Her parents exchanged brief glances, and Linda was strangely tense, staring at her cell phone. "So Thomas couldn't make it after all," Linda said. There seemed to be something hidden in her voice that Mary couldn't quite make out. "Yes," he said, "urgent work came up. It's disappointing, but it can't be helped." "Yes, it can't be helped." Linda's response seemed a bit too quick. As the car left town and climbed the mountain road toward the forest, her parents were unusually talkative. Helen in particular kept repeating, "Today will be a special day." Mary felt uncomfortable with these words but thought it was just expectation for a pleasant family outing. Aiden was absorbed in the scenery outside the window, pointing at passing trees and rocks and repeatedly asking, "What's that?" and "What's this?" Grandfather Robert answered his grandson's questions more enthusiastically than usual, occasionally exchanging glances with Helen through the rearview mirror. After driving for about an hour, the car turned onto a narrow unpaved road. Mary realized this was an unfamiliar route. "Dad, where are we going?" When Mary asked, Robert shrugged. "I found a different route. It's a place tourists don't visit much. The view is amazing." The car finally stopped at a small, undeveloped parking area. There were no other cars around, and silence dominated the area. As everyone got out of the car and shouldered their backpacks, Mary felt uneasy again. Her parents and Linda had too little luggage for a long hike. "Dad, are you sure this trail is okay?" "There's nobody here," Mary asked worriedly. "Don't worry, Mary. This place is a hidden gem. The view from the top is breathtaking," Robert answered with confidence. "That's right, Mary. Trust us. We just wanted to show you a special place," Helen added. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes seemed to be saying something else. Aiden was already under a nearby tree, searching through fallen leaves. "Mom, look! I found a pretty stone." Mary went to her son and shared in his small discovery. Meanwhile, Linda kept checking her phone repeatedly. "Linda, you keep looking at your phone. Are you in contact with someone?" When Mary asked, Linda looked up with obvious surprise. "No, I was just checking the time." Linda's voice rose slightly. "The time? Is something happening?" "No, nothing. It's just a habit." Linda quickly put her phone away. The hike began, and the group proceeded along a narrow path through the forest. The trail gradually became steeper, and Mary was glad that she and Aiden had come with proper equipment. In contrast, she was becoming concerned about her parents and Linda's attire. "Why are you so lightly dressed for a long hike?" When Mary asked, her mother Helen waved her hand to indicate there was nothing to worry about. "We'll be fine just going there and back. Besides, today is a special day." That phrase again. Mary tilted her head but thought she should catch up with Aiden, who was walking ahead holding hands with his grandfather. The sky occasionally visible through the trees was still blue and clear, but clouds of anxiety were gathering in Mary's heart. She felt uncomfortable with the glances exchanged between her parents and Linda, the unnatural conversation, and most of all, their behavior that was so different from a normal hike. The path suddenly opened up, and they emerged near a steep cliff. A deep valley spread out below, with the glimmer of a small lake visible in the distance. The wind blew strongly, and Mary instinctively gripped Aiden's hand tightly. She had a fear of heights, and her legs froze just being near the cliff. "It's beautiful, Mom." Aiden was captivated by the scenery. "Look, Aiden. Can you see the lake in the distance?" Robert placed his hand on Aiden's shoulder, trying to guide him toward the cliff. "Dad, that's dangerous. Keep Aiden away from the cliff." Mary's voice clearly contained fear. "It's all right, Mary. I just want to show him the view." Robert's voice feigned calmness, but his eyes were cold and determined. "Aiden, come here," Mary called out strongly. Aiden responded to his mother's voice and tried to move away from his grandfather. At that moment, Mary felt Linda approaching her. She noticed that Linda's expression had changed completely. Mother Helen also stood unnaturally behind Robert and Linda, and the three of them seemed to be surrounding Mary and Aiden. A sudden silence fell, with only the sound of the wind drifting around them. Surrounded by her parents and Linda, a cold fear ran down Mary's spine. The wind tousled her hair, and the view beyond the cliff was beautiful, but that was the least of her concerns now. Just as she tried to pull Aiden to her side, Linda suddenly grabbed Mary's arm. Her sister's fingers dug into her skin, causing pain. "Mary, there's something I want to show you," Linda's voice pretended to be calm, but her eyes held a cruelty that Mary had never seen before. What? Linda, let Aiden come to me first. Mary desperately reached out toward her son. No, I want to show Aiden too. Linda's mouth twisted eerily. Just as Mary tried to shake off Linda's hand, Father Robert picked up Aiden. As Aiden's small body left the ground, he exclaimed in surprise, "Grandpa?" Mary screamed in terror. "Let go of Aiden. What are you trying to do?" Mary's scream echoed through the forest, startling birds into flight. As if in response, Mother Helen abruptly moved behind her. "Mary, you were always a good child." Helen's voice was strangely gentle. "But sometimes, sacrifices are necessary for the family." With those words, Helen pushed Mary forcefully toward the cliff. Caught off guard, Mary lost her balance and staggered several steps toward the edge of the cliff. As her feet nearly left the ground, understanding flashed through her mind like lightning. Her family was trying to kill her and Aiden. Before her eyes, frozen with fear, Father Robert made a motion as if to throw Aiden toward the cliff. Aiden's scream pierced Mary's ears. "Mom!" That voice awakened the maternal instinct dormant within Mary. Forgetting even the danger to her own life, she desperately lunged to grab and hold her son. The moment her fingers touched Aiden's jacket, Linda pushed her strongly from behind. "Why?" Mary's scream vanished into the sky. Mary and Aiden fell from the cliff. During the fall, Mary instinctively held Aiden tight, shielding her son with her body. The two of them tumbled down, hitting trees and rocks along the cliff face. Sharp pain shot through Mary's entire body, and her vision flickered. "Aiden. Aiden." Calling her son's name, she curled her body to somehow protect him. Each impact assaulted her back, shoulders, and legs. But she never let go of Aiden. With a final major impact, they were violently slammed to the ground. Intense pain shot through Mary's body, and for a moment she nearly lost consciousness. But the desire to ensure her son's safety pulled her back from the sea of unconsciousness. When Mary opened her eyes, Aiden was trembling slightly under her body. Her entire body screamed with pain, and her right leg and left arm had become immobile. They were probably broken. But strangely, Aiden, protected by her body, seemed to have escaped serious injury. "Aiden, are you okay?" Mary's hoarse voice was barely audible. Aiden answered in a small, trembling voice. "Mom, are you okay? Aiden, are you hurt?" Mary desperately tried to check her son's body. "It hurts a little, but I'm okay." Aiden's voice was shaking but steady. Voices could be heard from the cliff above. Mary looked up, taking great care not to move her neck. She could see her parents and Linda peering down from the edge of the cliff. In the twilight, their silhouettes appeared black and ominous. "Can you see? Are they moving?" Her mother Helen's voice carried on the wind. "No, they don't seem to be moving." Her father Robert's low voice answered. "We need to check. We have to go down." Linda's voice had a hint of urgency. Mary instinctively hugged her son tighter and closed her eyes. If they came down and found them still alive, the thought was too terrifying. At that moment, the words Aiden whispered in his mother's ear nearly stopped Mary's heart. "Mom, we shouldn't move yet." Mary was amazed at the words of her 6-year-old son. Aiden had understood the situation and realized they needed to play dead. Despite her surprise at her son's wisdom, Mary did as he suggested. She remained still, and Aiden likewise remained perfectly still in his mother's arms. After a moment of silence, Linda's voice was heard again from the cliff above. The wind had grown stronger, and mixed with the sound of swaying trees, their conversation reached them in fragments. "It's too dangerous to go down. They don't seem to be moving anymore." Linda's voice had a strange relief mixed in. "Let's leave them as they are. Nobody will come here." Father Robert's voice was calm, as if they were discussing a mere accident cleanup. "I really never thought it would come to this." Mother Helen's voice sounded slightly shaken. However, it wasn't guilt, but rather anxiety about the change in plans. And then, Linda's next words froze Mary's heart. "Don't regret it. Now Thomas and I are free. We'll get the insurance money, and the obstacles are gone. We never needed that child in the first place." Mary couldn't believe her ears. Her husband Thomas and her sister Linda, and insurance money. In her mind, the events of the past few months began to rapidly connect. Thomas's late returns home, Linda's unnatural glances, and this hiking trip. It had all been planned. Her husband and sister were having an affair and were trying to kill her and Aiden to get the insurance money. And even her parents had participated in the plan. Mary trembled with intense anger, fear, and the sadness of betrayal. But now, suppressing her emotions and protecting Aiden was the priority. She remained motionless, continuing to hold her son. After a while, they could hear footsteps moving away from the cliff above. Mary and Aiden continued to play dead until they were sure the others had gone. As the sun began to set behind the mountains and dark shadows began to fall on the forest, Mary finally spoke to her son in a small voice. "Aiden, you noticed well. If you hadn't said anything," Aiden answered in a trembling voice, "I heard Auntie talking on the phone with Dad before. She said they were planning something bad." Mary was surprised at her son's intelligence, but felt her heart breaking at the terrible truth. Aiden had already noticed something was wrong. And now, he had nearly become a victim of that horrifying plan. To somehow save themselves, Mary tried to take out her cell phone, enduring the pain. However, the phone had been shattered by the impact of the fall. Looking around, they were in a deep valley. There was no sign of people from above, and the path leading down was unclear. Once the sun set, the situation would become even more difficult. "Aiden, listen. We need to get out of here. But I can't move my body. Can you walk?" Mary checked her son's condition. Aiden bravely answered, "Yes, Mom. I'll go get help." "No, I can't let you go alone. Let's move together." Little by little, Mary decided, no matter how painful it was, she couldn't leave her son alone. Especially now, after being betrayed by her family. A life-or-death escape awaited Mary and Aiden. But as she gripped her son's small hand, she strengthened her determination to survive. They had been betrayed by their family and brought to the brink of death, but supporting each other, they took their first step forward, enduring pain and fear to somehow survive. Mary and Aiden slowly made their way down the steep slope below the cliff. Mary's right leg and left arm were in severe pain, probably broken. She bit her lip to endure the pain, while moving little by little, relying on Aiden. "Mom, it's flatter over here." Aiden went ahead of his mother, looking for a safe path. With bravery and calmness beyond his 6 years, Aiden was helping his mother. Sometimes he gathered branches from the surrounding trees to make a makeshift crutch for Mary. "Aiden, tell me if you get tired. We can rest, okay?" Mary worried about her son. "I'm fine, Mom. I'm strong," Aiden answered, puffing out his chest. In that small back, Mary felt an incredible reliability that nearly moved her to tears. By moonlight, they continued walking through the forest for hours. Mary's watch was still working and showed it was past 11 p.m. Aiden looked tired but never complained. "Let's rest a little." Mary sat down under a large tree. Aiden sat next to her, nestling in his mother's arms. "Mom, will Dad not come back anymore?" Aiden's small voice echoed in the darkness. Mary was at a loss for words. How could she explain? That her husband had tried to kill them. That he was having an affair with her sister. That it was for insurance money. How could she make a 6-year-old child understand these things? "Aiden. Dad?" Mary carefully chose her words. "Dad won't be able to live with us anymore. But it's okay. I'll always protect you." Aiden nodded silently and snuggled closer to his mother. "Grandpa and Grandma too?" "Yes, them too. Aunt Linda said she and Dad would go somewhere together." After we were gone, Mary stroked her son's head, holding back tears. Aiden had understood the situation from the adults' conversations. Her heart ached that such a burden had been placed on such small shoulders. "But it's okay. We're alive. And we'll always be together," Mary said firmly. After a short rest, they began walking again. By daybreak, they finally reached the main hiking trail where people passed. In the morning light, the mother and son, covered in sweat and dirt and full of wounds, caught the eye of a middle-aged couple hiking there. "Oh my, are you all right?" The man rushed over. "Please help us. We fell from a cliff." Mary was finally able to ask others for help. The man's wife immediately called an ambulance, and Mary and Aiden were wrapped in blankets and given water. They were kind enough to share their hiking food, and stayed with them until the ambulance arrived. "How did you fall from a cliff?" When the man asked, Mary hesitated for a moment. "I'll tell the police everything later," was all she answered. The ambulance arrived at the forest entrance, and Mary and Aiden were taken to the hospital. According to the doctor's diagnosis, as expected, Mary had multiple fractures in her right leg and left arm, as well as internal bleeding and bruises all over her body. However, her life was not in danger. Aiden, too, had miraculously escaped with only minor bruises and scratches. "Your mother was like a cushion for you," the doctor smiled at Aiden. "She's a brave mother." While Mary was receiving treatment and resting, there was a knock on the hospital room door. It was Detective Brown from the local police. He introduced himself in a gentle tone and expressed concern for Mary's condition. "Mrs. Wilson, are you able to talk? Can you tell me what happened on the mountain?" Mary took a deep breath and began to tell everything. The hiking plan, her parents and Linda's behavior, and the moment they were pushed off the cliff. She also relayed Linda's words, "Now Thomas and I are free. We'll get the insurance money." Detective Brown responded calmly though surprised, continuing to take notes. "We've contacted your husband Thomas, but he hasn't arrived yet," the detective said. "He's also part of the plan. He was apparently having an affair with my sister." Mary spoke the painful truth. Outside the hospital room, Aiden was talking with a child psychologist. He also explained the events in his own words, and further detailed the content of phone calls he had heard between his aunt and father over the past few weeks. Aiden's testimony matched his mother's account, and the nature of the incident became clearer. Due to Detective Brown's swift investigation, Thomas, Linda, and both of Mary's parents were all arrested the next day. The interrogation revealed a horrifying plan. Thomas and Linda had been in a secret relationship for 2 years and had planned to kill Mary to obtain her $3 million life insurance policy. They had planned to eliminate Aiden as well since he could potentially be a witness. Mary's parents had been promised $500,000 by Thomas to participate in the plan. The trial began, and Mary had to face her husband and family. She appeared in court in a wheelchair, but stood at the witness stand with strong determination. "The people I trusted most, husband, my parents, my sister, they tried to take my life and my son's. But we survived. Because true strength lies in love. The bond between my son and me was stronger than their malice." Her words resonated throughout the courtroom, and sobs could be heard from the gallery. Aiden, too, bravely took the witness stand, despite being a child. "Grandpa and Grandma pushed, and Mom protected me. Dad and Auntie are bad people." His simple words carried a powerful truth. In the defendant's box, Thomas and Linda hung their heads, but Mary's parents tried to stand up to say something. However, they were forced into silence by the judge's restraint. As a result of the trial, Thomas, Linda, and both of Mary's parents were all found guilty. Thomas and Linda received 25-year prison sentences for attempted murder, and Mary's parents were sentenced to 15 years. When leaving the courthouse, Mary was now using crutches. Her body was gradually recovering, but the wounds in her heart didn't seem likely to heal easily. Nevertheless, she gripped Aiden's small hand firmly, determined to move forward step by step toward a new future. "Mom, what are we going to do now?" Aiden asked. "A new beginning, Aiden. We're going to start a new life, just the two of us." Mary had received tremendous support from her nursing colleague Jennifer, whom she had met during her recovery period at the hospital. Jennifer herself was a domestic violence survivor and deeply empathized with Mary's situation. "Mary, I'm moved by the strength of you and Aiden. What are you going to do now?" Jennifer asked. "I haven't decided clearly yet, but I think Aiden and I need a new beginning. My sister lives in Colorado. Her town is a wonderful place. It might be perfect for a new start." Mary began to seriously consider Jennifer's suggestion. Aiden was also positive about going to a new place. "Mom, are we going to a new house? Will I make friends?" Aiden asked, hopefully. "I'm sure you will, Aiden. We're together, so we can overcome anything." Mary was standing at the edge of fate's cliff again, just as when she had fallen from the real cliff. But this time, she had the courage to move forward with her son. She looked up at the sky and felt freedom. No one could hurt them anymore. She had learned the true meaning of family through a severe ordeal. On the day the trial verdict was delivered, the courtroom was wrapped in a solemn atmosphere. Mary sat quietly, waiting for the judge's words. Next to her, a social worker accompanied Aiden. When the verdict was read, a moment of silence flowed through the courtroom. But suddenly, Thomas stood up and shouted at Mary. "It's your fault. You ruined everything." Linda shouted just as loudly, "I'm more suitable for Thomas than you." That child is weak and useless just like you." As guards restrained the two, Mary quietly closed her eyes. Her parents silently bowed their heads, but there was no color of regret in their eyes. Mary looked at them one last time and bid farewell in her heart. 3 months later, Mary and Aiden had moved to a small mountain town in Colorado. They were renting a room in a guest house run by Jennifer's sister Martha and starting a new life. Mary had begun working as a nurse at a local clinic, and Aiden had started at a new school. "Aiden, how's school? Have you made new friends?" Mary asked her son one evening. "Yes, I play with Jason and Mike. But sometimes, I remember that time and get scared," Aiden answered honestly. "I feel the same," Mary hugged her son. "But remember, we'll get through it together." Mary and Aiden regularly attended therapy, facing their trauma. Sometimes they were haunted by nightmares, but they felt they were healing little by little. One day, the principal of the town's elementary school, David Clark, visited the clinic. He had come to report on Aiden's progress at school. "Your son is truly remarkable. To be so positive and caring despite everything he's been through." Mary smiled. "Thank you. Aiden is my pride." Over the next few weeks, David occasionally stopped by the clinic. He was kind and showed genuine interest in Mary and Aiden. Mary gradually began to open her heart to him. Meanwhile, in a distant prison, the bonds of the former family had completely collapsed. The relationship between Thomas and Linda had developed cracks in prison life, and Mary's parents continued to justify their actions. They never reached true repentance, but rather deepened their hatred. A year later, on Aiden's 8th birthday, Mary held a small party. Martha, Jennifer, David, and school friends attended the party. The house was filled with cake, presents, and the laughter of children. David stood next to Mary and spoke quietly. "Mary, I'm truly impressed by the strength of you and Aiden. You've taught me that there are things more precious than blood ties." Mary gazed out the window at the sunset over the distant mountains. "We've learned that family is something you choose. True family exists where there is love, trust, and respect." She turned her eyes back to her son's smiling face. From the terror and despair of being thrown off a cliff, they had climbed up together, hand in hand, and were now finding new bonds, a new family. Mary was certain. True family is not about blood ties, but about bonds of love that protect and support each other, and she and Aiden were living proof of that.